In this video, we're going to talk about how to solve radical equations with just one radical. So remember that a radical expression is an expression containing a radical. You can get rid of the radical in an algebraic equation by raising everything in the equation to a power that equals the index of the radical. So remember, the index will be written right here outside the radical. If there is no index written, that automatically implies that we are talking about the square root. So for example, this means that we're talking about the square root of 12. So to solve radical equations, you're always going to start off by isolating the radical. Then you're going to raise both sides of the equation to the opposite power, which will undo the radical. You're going to solve for the variable and then check your solutions. So let's try solving this equation for x. So our radical needs to be isolated, so you can see that it's already isolated. So we're going to undo it because it's a square root by squaring both sides of the equation. So when we do that, we get x plus 4 equals 6 squared, which is 36. Now to solve for x, we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So when we do that, we get x equals 32. So now we need to check our solutions by plugging it back in. So we have 32 plus 4, and that we're checking if the square root of that equals 6. That does in fact equal 6 because we have the square root of 36 equals 6, which tells us that 6 equals 6. So x equals 32 is the solution to this equation. So now you can go ahead and pause the video and try this example on your own. So in this problem, once again, the radical is already isolated, so we're going to undo it by squaring both sides. When we solve for x, we get x equals 10, and when we plug it back into our equation, we do in fact find that this makes the equation true. So x equals 10 is the solution. Now let's try solving this problem. So once again, our radical is already isolated, so we're going to undo this cube root by cubing both sides of our equation. So when we do that, we get 2x minus 1 equals, and then we need to do 3 cubed. Remember, 3 cubed is just 3 times 3 times 3, and you can do this on your calculator by entering 3 and then choosing the caret button and then entering 3. Either way, you should get the answer, which is 27. So we can solve for x by now adding 1 to both sides. So when we do that, we get 2x equals 27 plus 1, which is 28. And now we divide both sides by 2, which gives us x equals 14. So now that we have x equals 14, we want to check by plugging back into our equation. So we have 2 times 14 minus 1. And so that gives us the cubed root of 28 minus 1 equals 3. Which is in fact correct because that's saying that the cubed root of 27 equals 3, which is true. So that means that x equals 14 is a solution to this radical equation. Now you can pause the video and try this example on your own. So in this problem, we need to raise both sides of the equation to the 4th power to undo the radical. So when we do that and we solve for x, we find that x equals 4. And we can check that by plugging x equals 4 back into our radical equation, which does in fact prove to be true. So that means that x equals 4 is the solution to this equation. So in summary, remember to solve radical equations, you're going to isolate the radical and then raise both sides of the equation to the opposite power to undo the radical. Then you're going to solve for the variable and check your solutions.